seriously, like, I think I needed to hear that when I was in my early 20s, because I was the sort of person that I can do one thing now, I'm doing it, my brain is 5 million miles away thinking about what's going on next. What the consequence of that is I can't do well in what I'm doing now, and it gives me anxiety on all these things that I potentially need to do to reach that state. I think imposter syndrome, it will exist. I still have it now, and I will have it in 5 years' time and in 10 years' time. But the important part is to embrace it and try to avoid the word imposter syndrome if you can. Like, I try to tell myself, avoid it if I can. I haven't nailed it yet, but I think having that self-awareness is really important. And I've been really interested in that concept myself as well. And when I talk to anyone at work or out of work, especially if that person is a really high achieving individual or someone that's further up the corporate ladder, I always try to find a way to ask, how do you cope with imposter syndrome without really using those words? But what I've come to the conclusion is everyone's got those. Everyone has got self-doubt. It probably just equals to self-doubt. Everyone's got that. But you just have to really embrace that it exists and have that self-awareness and be confident. So building on your confidence is another way to reduce the level of imposter syndrome, quote unquote imposter syndrome, that you feel. Don't think that it'll go away in 5 years' time. It will exist in 90% of the people or 99% of the people. But you just have to know, develop that growth, apply the growth mindset, and keep on working towards a better version of yourself, and you'd find yourself more confident. Like, even with the viewers or listeners of your podcast now, I can quite confidently say that if they really sit down and reflect on their journey thus far, they would for sure feel more confident compared to the version of themselves 5 years ago. And the same theory applies to the further career path. In 5 years' time, you'd think back and be like, I'm a much better version of myself compared to the version of me 5 years ago. Just know that and take steps to work towards it.
That's great. So you've mentioned around it's unavoidable, especially if you're uptaking that growth mindset. So embrace it, avoid the word if you can, be self-aware of that state of feeling like you're in this imposter syndrome, build your confidence, and also reflect on the past and how far you've come. If someone is feeling this way in the moment, what is that small step that they can do to walk towards that better place out of this state?
I think my question to you is, when someone's feeling imposter syndrome, what does that equal to? Like, what action does that equal to?
Oh, I would say from my experience is feeling like I got to prove myself, or I'm not deserving. Someone else is more deserving, or I'm less deserving.
Does that stop you from taking on an opportunity that's been offered to you just because you don't feel deserving?
I guess it could, because it plays with your mind. And I think there are, like, it's funny. When you look at job posts at the bottom, it says, even if everything does not tick, we want to hear from you. And I think that sentence in a typical job post already illustrates that it's a common doubt that people have.
Yeah.
So I think what happens is the doubt comes in and it prevents you from promoting yourself. And if you're in that state, what can you do?
Yeah.
Do you have any advice?
I think it goes back to that point that I mentioned earlier about taking a risk and embracing the unknowns. If there's an opportunity that you know, it's just a room with you and you only, no one else, ask yourself, do I want this? You want this? If you want this, go for it. What have you got to lose? They say no to you, and that's it. And you get over it. Just do it. Put things into execution and be true to yourself.
It's like when you're playing a game and there's like an unknown part of the map. You don't know if there's a dragon there or a treasure there, but if it was known, everyone would be there. It's the
Yeah,
chance.
exactly. And be selfish. I'm going to use the word selfish, and like try to scrape what other people thinks, because there's a concept in a book that I read called the courage to be disliked. So it talked about a concept of separating task. So what others feel about you is their problem. It's not your problem. So why are you worrying about someone else's problem? All you have to worry about now is what you want, and be selfish to the goal that you want to achieve. I know it's easier said than done, but really challenge yourself to think like that. It helps.
Mm, mm, awesome. And I think the other question that I would want to go into was that by treasuring and promoting a lot of the logical mindset, I do sometimes think that we need to balance between the human emotions that's required and fundamental in a lot of our interpersonal relationships versus their logical decision-making ability. So for you, having gone through transitioning from the anxious place to being more logical, how did you make that transition so that you can balance between the two, between humanly embracing the human emotions and also
Yeah,
building on your logical abilities?
yeah. I think you touched on a really important part of like people are fundamentally different. I'm gonna speak for females, if that's not too sensitive, but I think from evolution, females predominantly think from our right brain, and then males predominantly think with their left brain. So the left brain governs logic, right brain governs emotions. So for me, I know the natural version of myself is to be emotional and be subjective in the way that I think, and have that like sort of intuition feel versus logic. So for me to become logic driven, I had to actually put in a lot of work to drive myself away from my natural state into the more balanced left brain thinking. Even today, I don't think logic is my natural self. Instinctively, I do use intuition a lot, but for me, I've just done enough reading and enough research to naturally apply somewhat that mindset. But one thing that I am conscious of is something called that I call compartmentalization.
Mm,
Compartmentalization. You know, when you
mm,
compartmentalize things into different areas. So at work, I find myself naturally applying the logical mindset, but when it comes to like friends and family, I naturally use my emotions way more than I use logic. But what the logic enables me to do is to really understand what scientific approach I can use to build a better relationship with the people that I need to build with.
mm,
So, you know, like say if my family or friend is struggling with something, or they, you know, like if they point out an area of opportunity that I need to develop better in, I can either be upset at that, or I can, you know, use a very objective view or scientific approach and really understand psychologically where they're coming from, and empathize with where they're coming from. And I can truly do that now, whereas before I probably would just get really defensive and just back up and be like, what are you talking about? You know, but now it's that's how you can use the logical thinking to your advantage in your personal lives. So compartmentalize and think about in what context you need to apply the logical mindset, and in what context you need to apply more intuitive mindset.
mm, mm, mm. No, that's really good because I think you touched upon two really key aspects of, I think there is a danger of thinking binary. It's not, there are times where it's yes or no, but there is a spectrum of hot and cold, for example, or the right brain, the feeling mind, or the brain, and the left, the logical brain, and then you feeling a bit more natural in one way, and your curious mindset will drive you towards another part of the spectrum, and that's your growth, because that's uncomfortable and perceived suffering or perceived pain. But it rewards you because now when you choose to compartmentalize and bring that and discern when you need that particular tool, that logical thinking or that amount of feeling-based decision making or interpersonal relationship, you diversify your relationship and you find different approaches to solve problems. Some people need a feeling-based approach, like how do you feel? How are you today? Where are you today? What's on your mind? And then flipping it to logical is like, what do you think? What should we do? What are your next steps? So it's really useful.
Absolutely.
Thinking that spectrum and then taking parts of the strength. It's a strength-based approach of when is this a strength? Yes, now I know I need it. You bring it, you give it, and you're adding value to your relationship and your workforce in the way that's most natural to you. And I think that's when you build your communication style, and when someone builds their own branding and their work style. It's that finding your natural habitat and also expanding on your skill set, so you're not just one side of the brain based type of person.
Absolutely. You have to consciously delve into the part of your brain that haven't been developed naturally. So it's that nature versus nurture. Is it nature versus nurture part? Yeah. If I can use a very simple example to summarize that concept, it's sort of like if you're scared of dark and you're in a very dark place, naturally be like, oh my gosh, I'm so scared, it's so dark around me, I want to cry. But then another way, once you understand what's driving that, it's essentially just a lack of photons. Do you know what I mean? Like photons is like light particles. It's essentially like my emotions is like, I'm so scared, it's so dark. But then if you use the logical approach, you're just in an area where there's not enough light particles called photons. That's it. Like objectively, that's what it is. So why are you scared? I'm not saying that you should feel that, but that's to help you understand how you can use it to your advantage.
Now I'm not afraid of dark anymore. Thanks, Sabrina. Now I can sleep
welcome.
alone. Wow, you fixed all my problems. It's just no photons.
I'm such a good friend.
Yeah, you're amazing. You fixed my long-term illness. You should work in healthcare system.
Imagine me telling a patient, why are you scared of dark? It's just a lack of photons. Imagine.
You'll run out of business very quickly.
Thanks for the encouragement.
No, everyone has their own strengths. So that's the part 1 and part 2. And the last question that I've been asking everyone is something that goes like, if there's something that you would like to say that your 20-year-old Sabrina would wanted to hear, would have wanted to hear, what would that be?
What I would have wanted to hear.
So I'll phrase it another game. So let's say your 20-year-old self, your 20-year-old Sabrina is here instead of me. What's a word of advice that you will give to her?
Live in the present. Embrace the present. Seriously, like I think I needed to hear that when I was in my early 20s, because I was the sort of person that I can do one thing now, I'm doing it, my brain is 5 million miles away thinking about what's going on next. What the consequence of that is, I can't do well in what I'm doing now, and it gives me anxiety on all these things that I potentially need to do to reach that state. But I covered that earlier in part 1. If I had to really just focus my attention to the things that's in front of me, that's within my control, then stars would align organically and it'll reduce the anxiety as well. So really try to challenge yourself to embrace the present. It's like, that's why meditating is so hard, like I've tried meditating, even now I find it very difficult. Even just 5 seconds in, your brain is drifting away into another area. So try and just really focus on what's within your control embrace the people around you, embrace your job, embrace your studies, and do a good job in what's within your control, and be present. I think you need to digest that information. So for anyone listening to this, digest it, take it away, write it down somewhere, and then revisit it every day. Eventually you understand. You might not get it now, and that's totally fine.
Digest that darkness is just no photons.
Absolutely.
Sit on that.
It's a lack of photon particles within the quantum magnetic field.
Sabrina.
I'll run out of business. No one's going to listen to this episode. Oh my gosh, what have I done?
I'll just turn your side off and say there's just like photons in Australia.
It's pretty dark outside now. The photons are gone.
Yeah. But yeah, how did you find it?
That was fun. That was really fun. Loved it.
Any
Really
memorable
enjoyed it.
question or any memorable answers that you said that you heard that was quite fascinating coming out of you, or a question that was quite interesting? What'd you find?
What's interesting is like I wasn't meant to get into the science and all these scientific and physics stuff, but like my brain just somehow drifted that way. I think that's another another byproduct of reading so much and how it recalibrates your brain. That's why I'm like low-key worried. I wasn't going to mention science because I'm like worried that a lot of people won't really apply it, and people might not find that resonate with that. But I couldn't, like, my brain just naturally shifted that direction. I think it comes to show how important it is to me, and how much I apply it in everything that I do, how it's really formed a fundamental way of thinking in everything that I do nowadays. Yeah, I didn't realize that until I reflected on the answers that I give you.
That's awesome. And when I finish, I always go, if you like what you heard, then I go like and subscribe. You have to follow me, okay?
Like and subscribe?
Yeah.
Okay.
Or if you can say it if you want.
No,
I just put it at the end of the video. I go something like, if you like what you heard, click like and subscribe. And then I go bye, and then we finish.
Isn't there 3 things? Like, subscribe, and turn the notification bell on.
You do it.
I'll try it.
Yeah. Oh, can you do it once in English and once in Chinese?
Chinese. 点赞，收藏，打开。I need to what's the Chinese version?
Oh, never mind, just English.
Yeah. I'll try and do it in Chinese. Okay.
Yeah.
Is it recording?
Yeah.
Okay. If you like what you've heard, make sure you subscribe. Wait.
I'm using that version.
Yeah. Wait, no. Okay, so if you like what you've heard, make sure you like, subscribe, and turn the notification bell on. You have to do it with me. Why are you just staring at me?
Because I'm just going to use your one. I'm not going to use my one.
Okay, you do it now, and then you choose which one you like better.
Nah, I got heaps of my one.